Hi, everybody. It is Lloyd Malik bringing you another edition of Ask Lloyd. And today I'm going to introduce our guest. Her name is Marcia Williams. She is a licensed therapist and recovery coach. She's dedicated her career to supporting individuals with the healing and transforming their lives from the impact of narcissistic abusive relationships. Very specialized and very important. Um, Good morning. How are you, Marcia?
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Lloyd.
Uh, I'd like to ask you, just jump right into it and ask you, um, when married to a narcissist, when can counseling be helpful? And when is divorce inevitable? Big question, I know.
Big question, loaded question. Let me start with when counseling is helpful. It's helpful when you recognize that something is off. When you realize that you are experiencing something in your relationship that is different from what you experienced when you first met the person that you're with. It is the opportune time to ask yourself what's happening, which we often do. We often say, well, what's going on? I don't, who am I married to? It's not the same person that I knew. So that's when counseling is helpful. And honestly, Lloyd, it's helpful for the individual first. And I
What,
have
how would it be for the marriage? Is this something that marriage counseling is recommended, or what do you think?
Well, what's interesting about that is as a therapist, I always recommend marriage counseling. Um, but honestly, it's helpful for the person who is experiencing or becoming aware of the problems because we oftentimes first need to feel like we are trying everything we can to heal our marriage. And so, in that sense, couples counseling is helpful.
Mm.
But I'm sure we'll get into the ways in which it isn't helpful when it pertains to narcissism and being in a relationship with a narcissist.
Well, could you, just for our audience, I think most of the people will probably know this, but it's basic. Could you just define narcissism and highlight some key traits of narcissistic behavior?
Absolutely. So, narcissism is a personality trait at its core. There is a spectrum. And so, on one end of the spectrum, the traits of narcissism are well known and they're common. We're human, we're all humans. So, there is that side. And then there is the other side, which is the extreme. And that's when we can call it a narcissistic personality disorder. So that's at
Yeah,
its core
right.
what narcissism is. Now, the traits of NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, are things such as a person who is very manipulative, manipulation terms that oftentimes, if you're familiar with narcissism, then we're familiar with these terms such as gaslighting, love bombing, and just their need to control and to be seen as and treated as an authority figure or person in the relationship, of course, as well as outside of the relationship. The narcissist, another very core trait is the lack of empathy. Lack of empathy, I would say, is the number one trait of a narcissist is lack of empathy. And that is because a narcissist at their core believe their own delusional thinking. So no matter how unrealistic it is, no matter how untrue it is, they believe it. And so because they believe their delusional thinking, when it comes to their behaviors of gaslighting and love bombing and control, they're able to lack empathy. And I actually like to say in my practice, they're not capable of empathy. So
So
that's
let me,
another.
so I would say this. So just with that being a primary characteristic or trait, it doesn't seem like counseling, family counseling would be good to sustain the relationship necessarily. Am I reading the tea leaves correctly here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why earlier I said, unfortunately, but and I do know from my own experience, we'll get into that a little bit later. But the primary reason that counseling is helpful is because the victim needs to feel like they are doing whatever they can, because it's hard to let go of hope. I mean, who wants to believe that the person you married is literally not capable of empathy?
Yeah.
That's really
And I'm
hard to
sure
wrap
that's
your brain
yeah, I'm
around.
sure that it's got to be really, really difficult for people to make that realization. I mean, it may take years before somebody realizes, oh, that's what's going on. I didn't realize it. It's been like a slow, steady, insidious erosion of your self-confidence or what have you. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's very, and so again, when you go into counseling, if the other side is lacking empathy, they're not going to be able to understand your position or care what your position is.
Exactly. And instead, unfortunately, I feel like I'm going to say that a lot, but instead, a narcissist will see therapy as an opportunity to prove that they're right. So again, because the narcissist believes that another trait, they deserve special treatment, and that can span anywhere from they deserve to be forgiven, they deserve to be given a second, third, and fourth chance. They deserve for their behavior to be excused. And it's because of their belief, which is why I call it delusional thinking, that it is because of the partner that they are the way they are. And we hear that often in the relationships. So in counseling, the goal, couples counseling, the goal should be, and I say should for a reason, but should be for these tactics to be exposed. And this is what helps the victim to learn that they're not the problem, that it's not their fault. But it does take a therapist who is well versed in narcissism in order to catch these personality traits. Otherwise, the therapist, just like anyone else, is at risk of being manipulated by the narcissist.
Right. And that's probably one of the fear of the victim of the narcissism, the fact that they're so intimidated and believe that this person could ego his or her way through a confrontation and to their advantage. I mean, I guess a typical example would be if somebody is, I guess, emotionally abused by their narcissistic partner, they're say there comes a minor domestic violence. I mean, we take domestic violence very seriously, but there's a punch in the face and then there's just like a shove or whatever. And as you're trying to escape the room, there's various degrees. But the fear would be if anything like that happened, the victim, or sorry, the narcissist would accuse the victim of being the one starting it. So that's got to
Exactly.
be paralyzing too. Do you find that in people you're working with?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And narcissists are very masterful at manipulating others. It appears as an innate trait in them, and as it is with someone with NPD. So you can imagine how challenging this is in a therapeutic environment, because that's their primary goal, is to avoid another core trait, to avoid responsibility
Mhm.
at all costs. So the therapeutic process has to involve holding both parties accountable, because ultimately, Lloyd, these two people, the narcissist and the victim, are attracted to each other. Now, let me be clear that in the beginning stages of any relationship with a narcissist, one of the other core traits is they're charming, they're likable, they're lovable, they're attractive in many ways. And I don't just mean physically or to the eye. And so, it makes sense that we would be attracted to someone like that, but we miss the signs, we miss the red flags. And that's where the opportunity presents itself for us to ask the victim, to ask themselves the question, what is it about me that attracted me to a narcissist? Now, that's further along in the process, because just the stage of recognizing that you're in a relationship with a narcissist in and of itself is traumatic, because it is challenging everything you thought you knew about the person that you're in a relationship with. And that can be very difficult to process.
Right. I heard of cases where the person, the victim, is hoping against hope, every day hoping that things are going to get better like it used to be when it was new and it was great. And that hope, I guess from what I've been able to ascertain in my professional career, that hope is well useless. That hope will keep you trapped. It's when somebody believes that this person is not going to change and this is the way it's going to be, it takes that individual, the victim, to confront, what am I going to do? And I could tell you this, that's a very, very hard thing from not just the emotional point of view, but the children and the money and what have you. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I can safely say this because of my own personal experience of being married to a narcissist for 30 years myself. I can say that all of those reasons are why, number one, we stay in denial, because in a relationship with a narcissist, we must stay in denial. And that's how it's called the survival mode. And that's how we ignore the red flags. All of this is our effort to hold on to the hope that this person is who we thought they were. Maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe it's because of their childhood. Maybe they didn't learn A, B, or C. We come up with all of these reasons, right, to justify, to rationalize, because we are empathetic people. A narcissist is attracted to empathetic people because we're more likely to do those things. And so we get to a point where once the veil of denial is removed, it does require us to let go of what sustained us in this relationship for however long. And in my case, I divorced at 30 years, but, for 25 years, I am just like, nope, everything is going to be fine. Oh, just a rough patch. And all marriages must go through this, all of the things we tell ourselves. But as a therapist and now healing, because it's a journey, on my healing journey, I want to help others to understand that what keeps us in a relationship with a narcissist, they may all be valid reasons, but they are in fact excuses. And that's the part that the victim can own in terms of why we stay. They're valid reasons: children, finances, where would I go? But they are excuses because of the fear of the unknown, the fear of what's on the other side. We depending on how long you've been in the relationship, you have no idea what it's like to be single. Who wants to be a single parent? All of those things are what keep us stuck, as you said.
And I've seen it often when the kids are young, realizing that the fear is the other parent, the narcissist, will alienate the children from, I guess, the victim. And
Yes.
that would be something that, well, I've seen in cases where people are like, I just can't go. I just can't leave this relationship because of what will happen to these children. And, and that's a life decision and a very, very important decision. And as a counselor at law, I confront these discussions, and there have been many consults who like, yeah, I'll hold on to your name. I just can't do it right now. And believe it or not, years, months, sometimes years later, I'll get a call. But yeah, the time is totally set by, what the victim, I guess the one who wants to leave the marriage, is capable of doing.
Right. And that's an interesting word, is what the victim is capable of doing. And the victim doesn't know what they're capable of doing. And that fear, again, is what leads us back to feeling stuck, feeling like we have no other options. This has to work. And that's what brings the couple into therapy. As it pertains to the narcissistic personality disorder, it is a diagnosis that can be found in the DSM-5. So, though there is a spectrum, at the extreme end of the spectrum, it is a formal diagnosis. And so everything we experience with a narcissist is related to NPD, the Narcissistic Personality Disorder. What the victim ends up experiencing is abuse. It is a form of abuse, the characteristics of a narcissistic personality disorder. And those traits can be seen in the form of manipulation, whether it's verbal, physical, mental, emotional, and many other ways, including legal, Lloyd. There are significant control issues, and most importantly, the lack of empathy. Narcissists lack empathy.
So let me ask you this. Let's think about it. You're a victim in a relationship with a narcissist. Do you have any practical tips that you could offer to somebody as far as how you can't divorce today, whatever reason we talked about, but what can you do besides going to individual therapy?
Yes, that is a great question. And there is a lot. There is a lot that you can do before you come to the conclusion or decision of divorce or ending the relationship. You can actually begin to take back your power, because that's what it is. You lose your sense of self in a relationship with a narcissist. And so the process of healing begins literally, Lloyd, and this is the part that, of course, it's easier said than done, but it's something you have 100% control over, and that is changing your mind.
That's true. That's true. You hear that in in many other contexts. It's, no, I've heard it said, no one could make you feel bad. Only you can make you feel bad. They could do things, and it's how you react. So that's a good, uh, practical tip. I think that's really, really good.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
here's something. I mean, I don't mean to answer my own question, but one of the things that someone should know who may be going through this is that, and I'm going to ask you if this is correct from your experience, life is infinitely more satisfactory, better, enjoyable, pleasant, livable after divorce from a narcissist than remaining in that relationship. Would you agree with that?
Oh my goodness. Would I agree
Good.
with that? And this is why I am so passionate about
Hmm.
helping others to take that very scary first step, because it will lead to the next step and the next step. And the end result, Lloyd, and I know you can relate to this, is, and I say this all the time, I had no idea
Hmm.
that life could be so amazing, so much peace, so much happiness after a 30-year marriage to a narcissist. I met my narcissist when I was 17. We married at 22.
Hmm.
And so obviously that relationship was all that I knew and everything that came with it. And so I will never forget that at our 29th wedding anniversary, which I call it a fake anniversary because
That point.
we were done by then, but we faked it. But at that point, I literally said to myself, it's been almost 30 years. What's another 30 years? If I can do this for 30 years, obviously I can handle it. I can handle him. I can do this. And as soon as I said that, I thought, wow, that is scary. that I would, have that
You
thought.
have the existential moment, right? There's that existential moment. This is all there is
Absolutely.
to it. I got, hey, this ain't no dress rehearsal, baby. You
Yep,
know, this is for real. This is you get one shot at it. So what are you gonna do?
exactly.
It's a big step to think of it that way. If you can think
It
of it that way,
really
you're
is.
yeah,
And it can go either way, Lloyd. We can use that to justify. I could have used that to justify staying another 30 years. I was comfortable, meaning familiar. I knew what to expect, all the things that I used to survive throughout the marriage. Um, there's usually, Lloyd, and this will be really helpful for listeners as well. There's usually a final straw. I do a lot of air quotes.
yeah.
There's
Okay, right,
usually
right. The
a
last one.
final straw, the last straw. And it's not something, oh my gosh, this has never happened before. I can't take it. I've got to go. It's something that's happened maybe many times before, but there's this one time, which is usually the last time, where we say, that's it.
Yeah,
I'm done.
yeah, that's right.
And that is what that's the catalyst. That's what propels us into literally the unknown. And my experience and what I teach my clients is that's what ends up being the best day of our lives.
Yeah, it is.
Yet you would never think it because you feel like crap. You feel like your world is over, stuff has hit the fan, and you're at your lowest point. How could we possibly think, yay, I'm so glad this is happening, my new life is beginning? That's not going to happen. So therapy can help you to take the next step, but that usually is what is the beginning of the journey to an amazing life that you have no idea is waiting for you, meant for you. You deserve it. This is the process of healing to get to that stage.
Right. So I would like to see if you could come up with something that we could encourage people who are in unhealthy relationships to do. Maybe reach out for counseling or legal support. What information do you have, or what could you personally offer people in this situation?
Yes, as I said, I've been a licensed therapist for 22 years. And so what I've learned is that I truly have found my purpose. And I can truly say that I'm thankful for my 30-year marriage. It taught me a lot about myself. It showed me my strength, my courage, my sense of resilience, all of these things. I created a program called Passage to Peace, and it's based on my own experience. So I use my professional expertise and my personal experience to help guide people through the healing process and to start their journey, continue their journey, refresh their journey. But the most important thing, Lloyd, is you don't have to do it alone. These relationships, we live in silence. We live in silence. We are alienated. You mentioned that earlier. We're isolated from friends and family, which is another manipulation tactic of the narcissist to prevent someone from giving us advice that might empower us. And so we're alone. It's a very lonely state. And so the first thing that I recommend is to ask for help. And that's why I say couples counseling, if that's where you choose to start, fine. Wherever you can start to reach out, to begin to speak, to use your voice, something that is that we're conditioned to not do in a relationship with a narcissist. So my program, Passage to Peace, is where I have created a community of healing, a community of victims and survivors, so that number one, first and foremost, you feel validated. It's not your fault. You're not the problem, and you don't deserve to be treated in the ways that we're treated by a narcissist. You deserve respect. You deserve to be loved in a healthy way. And
And
so my program starts with a 6-week program because education, knowledge is key. And thankfully, social media is bringing that to the forefront. And so in my program, it's so important that with a group of people who understand, you get the validation that you've never gotten while in a relationship with a narcissist. So you don't have to make any major decisions today. Just reach out. The support is there. I provide one-on-one coaching. I'm licensed in the state of Georgia, where I provide therapeutic services, but I'm a recovery coach nationally. And my goal is to bring you into a safe space and to empower you, to help you find your strength.
Excellent. Do you have a website or social media handles we can share with my audience?
Absolutely. The website is www.thepassagetopeace.com. I can be reached at info@thepassagetopeace.com. And yes, I am on Facebook and Instagram, Passage to Peace. You can find me and anywhere on Instagram or Facebook. And my website also has a contact where you can submit a request for more information. I offer free consultations. I'm happy to speak with anyone who just wants more information or they want to know how they can get help. And Lloyd, I'm so thankful to meet you because I tell you, one of the questions that we were here to answer today is, or when is divorce necessary? And when I heard about you and met you and the passion you bring to the work you do, I just thought, oh my goodness. I mean, what a blessing to meet an attorney who gets it. Because Lloyd, as you know,
No. Mm-hmm.
So many people who have chosen to separate and divorce are dealing with attorneys, and I'm not bashing anyone because we all do the best we can, but not everyone in our profession is aware. They don't all have the knowledge. And the fact that you do, Lloyd, you are invaluable.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I definitely feel like that is, I don't want to say it is my calling, but certainly I am passionate about helping people get out of bad situations. And I just want to say to everyone out there, if you are going through these times and you are alone and you think this may be something in your future, and that being, well, ultimately divorcing the narcissist, please know that you are not alone. There are many, many people in our community. Many of them are doctors and lawyers and teachers and firemen and therapists who are married to narcissists. They tend to be successful people, and it's really difficult for somebody to break free from that. But you are not alone. People get through it, and you can get through it too. So,
Absolutely. I love that. And that is the example that I want to be. I'm a licensed therapist, and I was in a relationship, a marriage with a narcissist for 30 years. And the shame that people experience, I myself as well experienced it. How is this happening to me? I'm supposed to be able to help people and fix people. And, early in my career, I mean, I became a therapist because I want to help people. And I'm the one who needs help. So, yes, to be able to admit that first to yourself and then to ask for help, that's one of the biggest hurdles. There is hope, and there's people like you and I who believe that, and we know it to be true. And so really it's about surrounding yourself with people who get it, people who understand. And that's what my program offers. So I welcome anyone to go to thepassagetopeace.com and learn more about it. And I am thankful to be able to use my expertise and my personal experience. There is hope and there is a beautiful life on the other side. There will always be challenges, but challenges make us stronger once we learn the tools of how to protect ourselves.
Well, I want to thank you very much for taking all of this time today to talk to our audience. I want to tell our audience that there is love and support and empowerment in your future. If you want it, it's out there. Um, Both Marcia and myself, we're here to help you and do whatever we can to get you to a more fulfilling and proper, wholesome life. We want you to be the
Absolutely.
best person you can be, and it's hard when you're stuck like that. So, thank you, thank you, thank you. I look forward to working with you in the future, assisting you in your career to whatever degree I can. And I love what you're doing, and I'm really glad to have met you as well. So,
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure, and I too look forward to working with you in the future.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.